All them days are gone. Matter of tradition, like handed down, father to son, your grandfathers, all this. Like it was a matter of pride really. It was stevedores. Different like there's lots of good doctors. You know what I mean? I know tons of good doctors, but stevedores especially, his top stevedore gangs was brilliant.
My father worked there. My brother was already there, and my uncles and my cousins and all that was already in the docks.
My dad was in the same gang with me. My uncle was a ganger.
My dad. He worked in there till he died. Then my brother, Jimmy, he didn't last very long though. He wasn't keen on it. Then Harry, my husband, he's dead. But I suppose every friend I've ever known always originally started somewhere in the dock. Either their dad was in it or they was in it.
And why do you want to go in the docks? Why do I want to go in the docks? It's our heritage. Well, my family's in the dock. Well, my family before them, in the 1880s, were in the dock. The Kellys were, I said. Don't matter about the name, sir. My card would say that. My card would tell you who I am, Charlie Kelly, with my number 15858.
Listen, when we went in the dock, all the families before us had been in the dock. Half the people you met, you went to school with.
His father used to work at Butler's, and he was like an elderly man by the time John went in. He was just sweeping and whatever, and got John in. Well, I think it's because they all grew up together, all those dockers. They was all local chaps, all their fathers and uncles and all that had been in it, because you could only get in the dock if you had family already in there.
It was a way of life. My father has been one, my father's father, throughout history, on both sides. My wife's family and my family had all been dockers, and goes back from the days of the potato famine in Ireland, when the Irish migrants come over and settled either side of the River Thames, and they worked the docks.
All come nothing, we was all paddies actually. All the stevedores, all Shaughnesses, Murphys. Like my ancestry was Dalligan, Flaherty and O'Brien. My name's Tudor. I had 3 Irish grandparents. The O'Briens worked in the docks, the Flahertys didn't, the Tudors worked in the docks. So that's how I got my brief. But my cousins, the O'Briens, all come out of Deptford. But we all come out in the old country, like Connemara and Mayo and whatever. Dug the docks out of 1810. That's all the stevedores, all Catholics. We're all Catholics like all this. Because we was all, you know what I mean? We all come in the old country and you dug the docks out, you worked in them.
I think one of the greatest privileges I had was being able to work with my dad. Brothers were there, you know. It was great.
You just towed a line then, you stood on the call. Nobody moved off that call until you was picked out. And you had a book. You'd be like this on the call, and they'd pick you out and you'd give him your book. And then you was employed for the day or for the week or for a fortnight. Continuity rule come in, you was continued on the job. If you picked a ship up, you could be on it a month.
And if you stepped over the line, you didn't go work. They call that soliciting work. Put your foot on the line. You don't go work day, brother. Pick up somebody else. Outdoor delegate there, down early. And he used to say, oh, you're not going to work day, brother. Step out and step forward, take his job. Because that was called soliciting. In other words, arse licking.
You had to go and get there in the morning. If there was a ship, you got picked out for the gang. If you didn't, you had to go and sign on.
It was a vicious scheme, really, the dock scheme, because of the casual work to shape on a call with an employer, and there could be 100 men, and he would come out with 20 tickets in his hand to pick his men.
There was a certain amount of not what you know, who you know.
Me and my brother used to go at 7:15 in the morning, and we'd meet at Cherry Garden Pier. Now from Cherry Garden Pier you could see up and down the river. If there was a boat at Chambers Wharf, if there was little strewn boats along the wharves there. And because of this, we become known as the Dawn Patrol, they used to call us, because we was out so early.
Nothing starts before 8 o'clock. And you wouldn't touch a chock or a sheet or a hatch before 8 o'clock. Right on 8 o'clock, zoom, it was alive, it became alive. But and they used to go and have a cup of tea before they went on the ship. And all the jokes used to come out, and did you see this, and did you hear this? And it was so warm and friendly. Freezing cold, frost all over the place. But that never touched you. Nobody was cold, they was all sort of laughing and joking.
You had a line in the road. You know what I mean? Your grandfather went there. You know what I mean? Old man Donovan, he brought my father. My dad was the outdoor delegate there. He was at Stevedores Union, you know what I mean? But they had a line there, and you didn't step home until you was called. You know what I say? Billy, Tommy, Harry, Jimmy, you know what I mean? You wouldn't step forward till you was called. Stevedores Fawn had tallies. And they give you one, give you a tally. If Jimmy's late, come wait with Jimmy. You couldn't wait with Jimmy. If he ain't there, he ain't there. You better pick up another man. And Jimmy lost 10 days' work perhaps. He gone on like a timber ship, say, a plank job, which is good work in the Surrey, good plank job, as opposed to strips.
The fellow I was with was an old man. He said, don't worry, he said. This work will be here when me and you, or when you are dead and gone. He said, there's work forever here. He said, that's all you want in life, is a job and the security of having a job. But even so, every day, when I went down that call, I was insecure. I was on the poor, I never had a job. I had to get on and get me job. But the relief every time you got picked up off that road, you knew you was working. It was just like getting employed and you got a job, you know. You knew you was going to get a week's wages, you know.
And there wasn't a lot of work. They used to call what called bonpon or something, and they'd just go over and register his name that he'd arrived for work. But there wasn't always work there for him to do.
When you wanted on the call to get some work, and you didn't go work, you didn't get picked, and you used to go round to the box, what they call the box, and you used to get what they call a attendance stamp. You had your book, because after we called up Stevedores, we hand their books over, and the employees should stamp that, like you've been to work Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, finished Wednesday, give you a book back. You stuck it in your pocket. Then anyway, but if you didn't go work, you took your book round to the National Labour Board, and they guaranteed you what I call a bomber, which was, I think, was 18 bob for a day, 9 bob a bomber. So you got 9 bob in the morning attendance, then you had to go on the dinner time call, see if there's any more work, you know, any more ships come in. Then if you didn't go work then, right, you took it back for the afternoon bomber, and that's so you attended for work, you was present for work, like got a labour exchange really, you know what I mean? And that was called a bomber, but it was only 18 bob.
Then you go back in the afternoon, see if you got nothing, you've got another 9 bob to make up your money. Your 18 bob money.
If you was unemployed all the week, I think I got £4.10.
Get a bump on there at the finish. You used to get, you know, when you never went to work, you had to line up there and get your stamp for the morning, then you had to come back at 1 o'clock.
But you work fucking hard, mate. You know, you got nothing but nothing in there.
200 weights, 300 weights sugar. Me and you on the end of a bag, you better be sure you got your back. £224 we chucking, haven't we? All day. You chuck your around all day, you wouldn't hardly talk. Just fag on it, mate. And work easy. Good mate. I knew when you was going to lift me, you know what I mean, chuck. Half a bag up. It was pretty to watch, really. And you'd done a good day's work, you didn't know you'd been to work, really. Like, it's physical work, you know what I mean? Also have a stomach like a rubbing board, didn't it? I mean, I could run the bus and drink all the beer and chase all the birds, but I mean, I can't do it anymore. You know what I mean? I was as fit as a fiddle, and the blokes I worked with was good.
I mean, not all dockers were blooming muscle men. Some of them were. You tried to keep fit in the docks because if you were fit, you worked easy. If you were not fit, you worked hard.
And you'd carry cement all day long, red hot, straight from the kilns. You'd come down by barge, and you'd have 4 men in the barge loading the nets, and it'd come down the ship's hull, and you'd be running it in from here, say 100 yards away, you know, and you'd stack it up all day long, for weeks on end, for 2 weeks on end, cement, you know, it used to be like that.
When the ship finished, we went in the warehouse and we delivered it all to barges. And we used to do 6,500 THS a day.
Was that hard work?
Very hard work. It was very heavy THS.
Ordinary men in those days were doing feats of strength that were incredible.
That's why I'm fucking like this. No, but I enjoyed it. Can hardly fucking walk now.
This man was 70. His name was Sparks. I'll never forget him because we wound up working in a barge together, and there was 300 weight bags of sugar, very heavy. And you was strong, young and strong, but he had a knack. Dip one, roll one, and put one, you know. And we did. Well, I was working hard because I had the 2 hooks lifting one end and put the rope under. He'd slash the rope under, but he taught me how to do it.
The best thing was in the dock, the old people helped you. And I think that's what's gone today, where they try to get rid of old people too soon. They learn you how to work easy. They might not work as fast as you, but they learn you how to work easy and safely.
I would say it was beyond work, hard work. If you was on 300 weight bags of sugar, you was lucky if you done 20 minutes, if you understand what I'm saying. It was hard work as such. But then again, if you had a gang of men, you have 6 men that worked for you down the hold, and the other 4 men were in the barge, with joviality and singing, got your mind off the work of what you were doing.
So you had to carry the sugar on your back, and when a boat came over, it's probably gone through the tropics, and the sugar is like a glue, and the bags are welded together. So when a docker tried to move the bag, he was also breaking it away from where it was stuck to the other bags.
If you had a bad bloke, like a bloke who wasn't, like, I'll give you an instance. Our pusher one day picked up a mate of his who running cementing. Couldn't have what they call light enders then. We ran underweight bags, running them all day. Right? Running them, stacking them, running. 3 ton comes out. Run it away. 3 minutes later, there's another 3 ton there. Well, coming down up. So you couldn't afford a light ender. And this particular bloke, he said, we give him the short pop, give him the short run. And it's just knackering work, you know what I mean? It was cattle like, even like fit men. I was a young fit man then. Anyway, he laid on us, but his continuity of the job, he had to stay there like 8 or 10 days. But we said to him, Jimmy, he said, what's he like, boys? We said, useless. He's useless. We said, if you pick him up next time, you leave us there. You know what I mean? Because you couldn't afford, not the bloke that wanted a bad geezer, but you couldn't afford what they call a light ender. You couldn't afford no thing. It was all earning your dosh, and it was collar. It was collar. You know, you got underweight bag in your hand all day. We've got a 17 stone bag, 17 stone manly bags, 200 weight sugar. You're running them in. You couldn't afford no bloke who couldn't do it. You might be the best bloke in the world, mate, but you couldn't afford it. So we said, you pick him up next time. You leave us there. The other like 11 men, 12 men.
Obviously, you couldn't work in the rain because the ship would blow the cargo, you know, would expand. And I've had experience of seeing what water can do to the cargo of a ship, blow the side, force the ship out and split the sides of the ship. Oh well, it was like grain, this stuff. and it got wet apparently, and it was bang, it blew.
The Butler's Wharf was they worked at what they call short sea traders, small ships, different rates, better job than we had. Didn't have far to take the cargo and got twice as much for doing it.
We was casual dockers, which means to say you could work it went from Dockhead to Bexley, but we'd go along the wharves and pick jobs up along the wharves because they was better paid in the Surrey. See, when we went to Dinnerweeks, which was fish mill, you get 10 shillings a ton. But when you went to the Surrey docks and did the same thing, you only got 3 shillings.
The rice, one would service rice, one would do lard. My mum worked in the lard packers and the rice mills. There'd be mainly Christmas work leading up to Christmas. So it was a big part of my life growing up.
I enjoyed being a casual docker, moving from one wharf to another wharf. You met different people, and the sense of humour was terrific in those days because everywhere you went somebody had a new type of joke, you know. And that went away, I think, when we became regular, because you were amongst the same group of men all the time, you know. Like the humour went.
Well, this is Canada Yard. They call it Canada Dock or Canada Yard, but this is where the deal porters worked. You know, they used to bring the timber round to them, and that was a specialist job, deal porter, and they used to make the timber up on the set, and it was a craftsman's job.
The docker was a jack of all trades. He was really a very skilled man. I mean, those ships went to sea. If they weren't loaded properly, they turned over. The docker knew what he was doing, and he was so adaptable that he could be sent into any job anywhere and do that work.
Well, some jobs it was hard work, but the strange thing is that the jobs where you didn't work so hard were the better paid. We used to work at Brandon's Wharf, which is near St Mary Church, and we used to work on straw boards. There was 2 little Dutch coasters used to come in, the Rinny and the Zeeland, and if they had about 250 ton or something like that, well, I'd be down the hole with Sidney Griffith, it's another bloke I know, and you sort them out and do them up and send them up like on the strops, and you got pretty good pay for that.
You've got to remember we worked very, very hard, so if you had a chance to enjoy yourself, you did. If it rained, you went straight to the pub, or a certain amount of you did, not everyone, but probably in our gang about 8 of us was drinkers. You go to a pub. Another gang that worked in the same area as us, the Ball family, funny enough, Ball family, they had a piano player and he used to play the piano, and the gangers then used to have to drag us out once it stopped raining.
So this could be like 6, 7 o'clock in the morning as well, couldn't it?
Yes, we drank in the morning, yeah. If we never had no work to do, we would have a drink in the morning, yeah. The Warrior, the Caucus, Farriers, they was the 3 early morning pubs. We mainly used the Warrior. Yeah, we used to drink Fidgets, the Ship and Well, which is drinking now, Ship of York. We basically would have a little, if we wasn't working, we'd have a little tour around.
You know, all the stevedores in the pub in the morning, like, you know, early morning house, like, you know, like 6, like the Warrior in there in the morning. Always have 3 or 4 pints of beer before you went to work, or Guinnesses or drops of rum in there.
And of course the pubs opened at 6 in the mornings, and some of the harder drinkers used to be in the pub early for their pints to stop themselves shaking, you know what I mean? But that was their way of life.
I worked in Bellamy's Wharf, that's not even there anymore now. There was a special consignment of piecework stuff. It was tins of corned beef, and the dockers was lifting obviously the cases, but they wanted so many women piecework, and it had to be piecework. You had to be quick to keep the dockers up as they'd start, because what we learned made their money. And the labels had to come off, fresh labels on, and glued, keys, and put back in the boxes.
Well, that one at Bellamy's must have been when all the family was eating corned beef for weeks and weeks.
Oh yeah.
I remember that.
How many years ago was that? But I think that was about a 6-week thing, and you know, the rafters up there was rats, you know. They don't worry me, I've got to be honest. I've got frightened of rats on my house, but you know, they was that big. Running up, and the dockers were more frightened than us. Sometimes they'd say to us, make a noise, so it'd run away. We're saying, oh, give us some more work. The women wasn't frightened, the men were.
I can remember grown men sort of jumping up and holding their trousers up with a little tiny mouse, you know. I mean, as you unload, of course, the rats or the mice gradually move into the cargo that's still there. So when you got to the last bit, you know, you could expect something to come out.
And piecework, oh, your fingers, you know, your fingers were stiff. You've got to keep up, because these dockers, you know, and I tell you what, I had a row, a terrible row, one of them. I said to him, you've earned more fucking money since I've been working here than you've earned with all your other fucking mates. Hold your noise or I leave. And he shut right up. And he did, because I was only young and I was nimble with my fingers. And I put it up, so I dabble, because a lot of these girls was old girls, so I was sort of getting on a bit. And when I went in there, the cases, when I doubled the cases, so obviously he got double the money, and he wanted a moan one day. So I started. And it was terrific.
Piecework made people take risks that perhaps they shouldn't, so it was quite dangerous work.
Devlin report was more or less, like I say, it was a smooch really. It was inquiring into docks, conditions, methods of working, piecework, whether men had to work under the slave conditions we did work under. The Devlin report in some ways had a lot of good things going with it. It's got to take the competition and the casualness out of dock work. But it did eventually take the casualness out, because we were all given permanent employers under another scheme, but the men was never happy with it. I think a lot of the, especially the stevedores and a lot of the old dockers, would have rather carried on the way they was.
While we were casual men, of course, we were cheap labour. And when the employers had to give us, with the Devlin report, regular employment, and they had to fund our holiday pay, and they had to give us sick pay. And of course, sick pay was one of the things that the government wanted to give them, because if a lot of the lads had to go on the social if they were sick with no sick pay. So I mean, there was a certain amount of pressure from the government, I imagine.
It's the Devlin report somewhere along the line that really got them to be getting paid proper paid wages, like, you know.
When you do look into it and realise what's coming out of it, you were still only getting a pittance, but it was a fair pittance. You went to work for that, and you got that, and it was as simple as that.
I was a casual, some called them pikers. You was called a piker because you had a hook.
An S hook, which was used as a case hook, it was shaped by an S. That was used for pulp or cases. It was optional for cases, no good for bag work. Then you had what they call colonial hooks, which is a straight hook around, just a straight, like you see on the waterfront. Them hooks, you know, Marlon Brando, that's the sort of hooks that most stevedores, dockers had. That was a docker's hook. Yes, it's worth another man's, yeah. If you're picking up say you turn over a 500 case, flat on the deck, you can't turn over, can you? You've got to get your fingers underneath, haven't you? If you've got a case, say, that big, you get your hook in, shoulder, you can turn over. Strong man, I know men turn over half a ton, 1200 I'm not, I was a strong man. I was a strong knife now, but I was a fairly strong man. And I could turn over 600-700 with that hook. Your fingers, you could turn over underweight. That hook, get in the side, shoulder. It was worth a lot. I've still got a couple indoors now. I had Australian wool hook. Australian Wolfie lost it, and I had it for years, and eventually I lost that on a Polish ship. A Polish docker ended up with that. Well, I found it on an Australian wool ship. Wolfie had left it, lost it, and that was a flat hardwood gunwood handle, and a beautiful hook that was, Australian wool hook. That was a good, my quite enjoyed that was till I lost it. So it was different hooks. Yeah, I used to use a colonial mainly, and S hook, if I had a pulp job, you should get use an S-hook, the shape one, because you used to keep your knuckles away from the pulp.
I mean, I'm not sure that the law would allow this now, of course. I mean, I suppose it's really a dangerous weapon.
You always had them in your belt. Was never pulled by the police and that, going up round the docks. Stevedores and doctors walk about them in their belt. You get put away now. No dangerous weapon, but you always had them in their belts. You know, in the pubs you was with them. Couldn't leave them work, nowhere to look. We had no lockers, so you find blokes in the pub. Never heard of any fights or any damage with a stevedore. You know, deadly weapon. You get a bloke with that, I go up for his goal, like, I mean, but never heard enough. Never heard none of that. It's a tool of your trade, like, I mean. Yeah, rely on each other. Very dangerous game. You know, before containers come in, you know, you had wires breaking, derricks coming down. You was looking up. Men push you out of the way. You had to rely on good mates.
The men were working underneath the load. Somebody would shout under, and you'd dive for cover. You know, it's what they called a greenacre. It was a spillage of cargo came down.
You know, when timber went out the hold of the ship, sometimes you get a few shooting out the set, the timber, you know. Everyone you call out who's ever on deck, you have a ganger, used to stand on deck, used to have to guide the crane and everything. He'd shout out to you, under or something like that, that'd be the word under, and scream it out, under! And everyone would dive into the wing. But it'd be timber might become shooting out.
The under, when you was ever shifting anything above stevedores, they say under, and you know under. You always looking like that. You see stevedores, I'd lost the habit now, but I used to go out to the pub, I'd be looking like that, because you had to keep looking up. In case anything comes down, you know what I mean? And I heard the under, over in a flash. Charlie Jackson went that way, Jimmy was there, and I went that way. Under, boom, dead. Fast as that. Fast as that. Punched an hole right through, Jimmy.
I mean, I've witnessed odd accidents, you know, where people have been hurt, their pelvis smashed with, you know. It's a very dangerous occupation because the crane was lifting something over your head. You never wore any safety helmets or anything like that.
Well, Jimmy Stroud, fellow I just talked of, he got killed November 1961. He had a beam come down off the top, a 2-ton beam, 30 underweight 2-ton beam. He come down and punched an hole right through him. His head ended up down by his bum, Jimmy. Teddy, 29, lovely man, Teddy, 29. He got done by a plyboard, and it chopped him up. His head was over there, and his feet was here. And they picked him up like a load of meat into a tarpaulin, Teddy. I'm not being gory, I'm just telling you facts like. I lost 7 mates in there, 7 blokes. Tony Cheeseman, big Tony, and he had his face pinched off, and the boys just cuddled him for 20 odd minutes while he died. That's when you make up, say, a ton of sugar, say 9 200 a bag, used to 9s or 12s we used to, and you make it up in a double rope, you put them in there, then you sling them, bite on the top, what they call a bite on the top, like a double rope, reeve through, that goes on the hook of the crane. Now if that set goes to go, we call it a greenacre, because it falls over and you've got to pick them all up again, a ton of sugar. So this is what a lot of blokes used to do, just hold the bite. And sometimes you used to pull your hand into the bite. So you've got a ton of sugar, you used to screw your hands off. You know what I mean? Screw a finger off. And a lot of stevedores, Gibbo, Peter, lost it in the finger. You know what I mean? Lost it in the bite. I know that, Peter lost it in the bite. And I mean, and men, I say, got broken legs, broken toes. You know, it was common every day. A man was barely hurt. I think the worst, most horrific one was Bassey. He got grabbed by a sugar grab. Come over, you got the chief got in like that. And he went right over the top of him and went, come, you imagine his legs, come, just crunched all his legs up.
I had an accident myself with my finger. I lost the top of my finger where he was doing bag work, and I had my hand the wrong side of the bite, and I tried to tighten the set up so I wouldn't lose the set of bag work. And as I tightened it up, my hand got caught in the rope, and the crane started to go up, and had my hand caught in it, and lowered me back down. And I went to Guy's Hospital. I had to have my top of my finger off. But it is a well, you've got to know what you're doing, you know.
Was that a common accident?
Yeah. There's a few people caught their fingers in it alongside the bite on the set.
Accident. I mean, you know, when Peter lost his finger, I mean, people just laugh. They don't ask how you are. They just laugh. No matter what you've done. If you have an accident, you had to laugh. Peter told me about that when he got pulled up by the strap, and they just laughed. Hanging about again, Mossy. And they're serious.
Our fathers as young men, they would have fucking old at 40, didn't they? Poor old bastard, all gas in the first old fucking war, weren't they? 9 out of 10 of the people I knew in the dock, they called it bronchitis. Fuck knows what it was. Look at the people now dying of asbestosis, still at the day coming out the docks. My younger brother died of it, wasn't 60.
He was suffering with chest problems about 18 months before he got made redundant, you know, getting coughs and whatever. But he got made redundant in May 1992. By August he was having lots more problems with his chest. Went to the hospital or whatever, and they found that he'd got all these problems with his lungs. And he went downhill from then, and he died in '93, December '93. So he was only sort of 18, 20 months out of work when he died.
What was it he died of, Joan?
Asbestosis.
There's some larks. But one job we used to go to, Dinnerwicks, down by Bellamy's. We was working there, and there was one bloke there, they called him Bootsy because he wore old army boots, and he said he wasn't feeling well. Well, I had some Bob Martins on me, because I had a dog. My brother put one in his tea, and he felt well afterwards. He said, I feel a lot better. Yeah. That's the things we used to get up to, like, yeah.
Just all friends, with all mates. But as I said, the camaraderie was first class. I can't describe it by virtue of the fact there was no one that would ever do you if you was Peter Moss. They would never ever do your day.
Oh, we were brothers. Everybody, they're wonderful men, really, Dockers. If he was in trouble, they were in trouble. It's a very close relationship.
The greatest characters you've ever met in the docks. I mean, people in the docks was well tried. I mean, like mates, like your Peter, Percy, God rest him, Dennis Scanlon, Relying, 100% blokes. I was happy in the docks, tremendously happy. Actually, it's my missus said to me, "You're funny, Mick. All the people, only people you like dock are the stevedores." I said, "Yeah, well, I've never been let down by them."
Tilly Street, my area in particular, was known, they used to call it a village.
The man got out in the dock, he was had what they call the old bucket round. A man got killed, a bucket come round. That's how Johnny Smith got killed at Tudor Street, for argument's sake. You didn't know Johnny Smith, you go, "Yeah, half a quid." You know what I mean? Or if you had $1, well, you might have a fiver, you know, those old, and they had a bucket. So I took it round to the wife and said, "Yeah, I can't bring him back, but that'll keep you going for a little while." You know what I mean? We looked after each other. If ever you was ill or anything or hurt, they used to have a whip round for you, look after you.
A bad injury from football when I was young, about 23, and I was out of work a year, and they used to have collections for me, give me money, because you never got what you got now. You didn't get the benefits you get now.
I mean, some weeks you'd have nothing, and you'd go in and someone would buy you a drink, and you'd say, no, I can't put it back, and I'd say, leave it out. And the next week you go in there, you put in one, and he might be in the same boat. And that was the closeness. If he hadn't got, someone would give him or lend him or bung him or something.
Work was never a drain on the national economy because we funded our own unemployment. The men who were at work paid so much for the people who were unemployed.
We become an insular society. because nobody give a fuck about us. The papers run us down, we was always on strike, lazy bastards, this and that. That's all we ever done with it, can't strike and hold the country around small this time. We went out about dangerous ships, we went on strike with dangerous ships, not dosh, because people was getting hurt. On the Atlantic boats, they was doing the Atlantic boats and a couple of men got badly hurt on the Atlantic boats. So we turned around and said, get them fixed, otherwise you ain't going to work them. And the port employer said, well, you don't work them, the ship owners. You don't work them, you don't work none. We said, well, we don't work none then. Simple. You know what I mean? Like, so we stuck together on them things. Because they had disputes about a lot of things what the public didn't know. They didn't want to come down and talk to us.
The labour force, as I said, become so commune and so sort of strong that it was considered as a fault in the side of any government, unfortunately. But we always thought we was right. You know, the shipping companies are the hardest people in the world to deal with. Anybody who's had experience dealing with shipping companies will find throughout history they've always been hard as nails to get a penny out of. It's a fact. It's still like it today. And a lot of it was created purposely. You know, you used to worry about certain times of the year, April, when the tax situation came. It was always dodgy then. You couldn't get a job. You go down there was no work. There was all because of tax reasons and things like that. You know.
That was a press, the right-wing press basically. Come on to that. They wanted something. They hammered the miners, they hammered the steel workers, the car workers, the dockers, because they had no comprehension. The class system in this country, they had no comprehension how a miner lived, or a doctor lived, or a steel worker. They had no comprehension what their lives was. Didn't want to know. As long as somebody done the dirty work, they didn't worry, because they was making tons of dosh up a place like this. They had easy money, this and that, and they didn't worry how working men worked. So all they could do was condemn, and most of the press was right-wing then, Daily Mail, Daily Express, all them sort of people. Never come down and talk to you, talk about you. So basically it was a class thing. Because that militancy, you had to stand up, or otherwise they'd walk all over you.
But we was always willing to fight for what we believed in. And we would support others in regards of nurses and firemen even. You know, we'd support them as a gesture, not for a long-term situation, but to show that we had unity with them. And I believe that if all trade unions was like that, and the governments was fair to people instead of being greedy.
People got their £20 a week. When we got the £20 a week, we'd had it for ages. And we went on strike for Liverpool for 6 weeks. But how many people would have done that for us? We was already getting that money, but we still went on strike. The best result I ever had was the long strike. I believe it was 7 weeks, 8 weeks, I can't remember. And it was just before Christmas, and we was breaking our hearts because we ain't got no presents, ain't got nothing. And then we got a telegram, because you used to have telegrams then delivered to your house, and they settled and we got back pay. And that was the best result. It's probably the best Christmas I've ever had. You can imagine, from having nothing to having all your back pay. I was lucky, I had a wife that supported me 100%. And I think it helped me in life, and that's the thing I appreciate more than anything. She never ever went against anything that I'd done. Even when they give me 1 shilling, and this is true, and I'd like you to keep this on your film, with 2 children, me and her, nothing coming in, they give me 1 shilling and 10 pence cheque. And I sat down for 4 hours for that. And she went back and put the 2 kids on their laps and said, "Oh, well, you look like the kids." We wound up getting £7. That was I think we'd been out on strike for 4 weeks then.
Would have said nothing, they'd have done what they like. We've been slave labour, but you're either born on your knees or born on your feet. We actually were born on our feet.
Shortly before they shut, we had an 8-week strike, and although I had a bad back, I felt so strongly about it, I come back to work. We was outvoted by people that you never even see on the picket line, and after that I lost sort of respect for a lot of people.
That was the worst thing you could do in a dog. It was what they call leg your mates over. In other words, go to work when your mates was out. So if you went out for any change of conditions or any monetary gain, them blokes was going to work, they still got the same as you. They wasn't prepared to out of you and have the hardship. And we had 6 and 8 weeks at times. No docks coming in, not a penny.
You've got Tilbury. Those blacklegs, they went to work when we was on strike. And now they've got people going around their houses, and if they're out with the flu, checking they've got it. If they ain't got it, they're grassing them up. And that's a thing that would never have happened, you know. And I know this for a fact through my union work. That would never have happened. If someone was sick, he was sick, they send up.
We've got men now who regret they ever done it. But the trouble is it never washes off. People never forget. There was blokes who scabbed in the 1926 strike. Used to go in the Surdog. One or two of them. And people never talked to them. Never ever talked to them. Yeah. You know what I mean? Was Percy used to go. No good. So that's one thing you never done. Was legged. Because you can look in the mirror in the morning, shave and look yourself straight in the eyes. You know what I mean? There's a lot to be said with that, but you have a shave in the morning, you look yourself straight in the eyes and not feel ashamed of anything. And that's one thing. Your dad was one of them. Peter, Percy, all the people I know, all the people your mum knows. Your mum, ask your mum about what she thinks of legs. She'd tell you. Yeah. You know what I mean? Kath, she'd tell you.
Used doctors as a regiment of soldiers type of thing. And that's one of the reasons why a lot of them wasn't called up for the army. They done their stint in the docks and things like that. Hitler used to drop his bombs there. Obviously other cities and everywhere else, but London was the main target. And so there was a bit of a trouble, and it was ironed out by giving the dockers a charter, which was an act of parliament. And we had that as protection, a job security, in other words, job for life.
Became someone in the army. I was called. They wanted to snaffle me and put me in the Foreign Legion, on the Foreign Legion, because I knew so much about shipping overseas that they couldn't believe that one man could do a fleet of American ships and unload them in 3 days. I mean it truly. I'm not coercing myself into someone that wasn't. But doctors came to me and said, "Charlie, can I come and work with you?" I said, "No, I can't take you." Why can't you? Because the Navy's snaffled me. Can't do that. I said, "You can't?" I said, "Well, I did." And I went up and see him and said, "How comes you giving me orders and I'm in the docks group?" I said, "How comes you took me over?" "Well, by virtue of the fact that you're the only one that's left now. We've shipped all your men away, so it leaves you." And sure enough, they had. The Navy had shipped all of my docker mates, and they went to the beginning of the invasion of Sicily at the bottom of Italy. And I had to go to Aden. The Navy sent me to Aden. There was a ship on the rocks there, and I had to get it off, but it was laden with bombs and things, by virtue of the fact it was ready to be used direct. But by virtue of the fact, it's just plain thinking, and yet all these Navy men don't want to have the arsehole of it, because if it never works, they say, you lose your fucking command. Not me, I couldn't lose fuck all. All they could do is send me home in disgrace, and I never had a fucking thing on me. And I started there in 1939 in Folkestone. 1939 I started in there, and I came out in 1980. Yes, as I told you, there wasn't a fucking strike on there, and everyone fucking accoladed me. And they all come round and they said, you are in the what's now, you know that, don't you? You're going on the Foreign Office. I said, "Go fuck yourself, I'm going home." And I walked out.
When I see my uncle, who's now 78, who's my ganger, he likes me to reminisce and tell him stories. Wow. And it was a funny thing with him because he was a Japanese prison war camp for 4.5 years, so we couldn't go on Japanese ships because he would have physically attacked the Japanese, so we couldn't go on them. Because he'd come out still a strong man. He was still a strong man after that 4.5 years. So we was excused going on Japanese boats.
The Japanese boats in there, and there was murder. They wouldn't let us go on board. So we knew that this was going to be a fight up the gangway. And you had to fight, your hook, you can't, you know your legs hook, the old S hook, like, you know, it was always in your belt. So if they got out swords, scimitars or whatever they wanted to get out, you get your cargo all out. All right, come on, let's have you.
If you caused a misdemeanour or you done anything wrong, stealing or anything, you lost your job, but it was a suspension for so many months or a year, whatever the sentence was. And you mustn't work in between that time because you forfeit your job if you do.
Got his collar felt from there. Well, he was, he got a lorry to take a load of pallets out for him because everything was delivered on pallets there. And he sold them to somebody round by the Southwark Park Club, round by the Southwark Club Park. And fella brought him back in the lorry and he went over the wall so that they wouldn't see him come in the gate late, but they caught him going over the wall, so they knew he was up to something and they sorted it. For funds, to fund this sea cadet corps that he was heavily involved in, he loved it.
Okay.
That was, it started off in the Surrey, well where the gasworks is, yeah, down the bottom of there, there was the Surrey dock then, it's all filled in there, isn't it? Well, they had their boat was kept down there, the Keeney Jacaranda, that they did their meetings on. What used to happen, they used to take all the sea cadets for trips. They used to go like over across to Boulogne and places like that. And the more things he could get to keep this boat going, the better it was for the kids. He used to go around, he used to peak frames, cheese factories, bacon factories, to get anything they could hand out for when they went, so that they wouldn't, the boys wouldn't have to pay so much to go on the.
I mean, I don't know if I should really sort of say, but I'm not sure whose wedding it was, but they did unload and help themselves to half the champagne. So they were stevedores. I mean, the stevedore part was like loading and unloading actually in the hold. So first opportunity was theirs, wasn't it?
I remember Chinese kimonos that came over from China. He'd asked someone to get them who was going on the ship.
If you had the right type of people you were working with, and he used to say, Charles, he always called me Charles, can you do the thing? I said, you ain't got to go again, have you? I want to get away because I'm doing the thing, I'm going to earn a couple of bucks. I said, yeah, of course you can. You know very well you can with me. And that's how we used to do it, like.
That used to be another one, the National Wharf, didn't it, facing there? Used to go over there like when I used to load the lorries with wheat and maize. Me and Jim Boy used to wait. And as they put the hook in and used to tear the sack, we used to go in, sweep it up and put it in a carrier bag. We used to sell it to our uncles who had the old houses then for their chickens. That's how we made our pocket money. It's to sweep it up off the ground as they're loading the lorry. One, we never ever got killed, you know, they're lifting all these sacks up, you know, but one with a hole, and there we was, you know, get 10p for half a bag of that and feed the chickens for a month. I used to do these things, right?
Charlie, we never saw it. 12 men, I said, 12 men said, and I swear their life away, what they said is true. That's the police. People with crowns up here and all that and trying to bamboozle you. If you want, when I say bamboozle you ain't getting away with that, son. Son, I've got a fucking boy older than you. I've got a bike older than you, and all that silly game. Yeah, I've got a bike older than you. I always used to say that, and I had a bike older than them. You know. But it was true.
That's, oh yeah, when they pulled them up, because all the road was, and they decided to take all the towing blocks out. Oh, it's lovely on the fire. Oh, but they spit out a bit, you know, like, oh, you could sell them to anyone. And then
I'd dig the road up and sell it.
Yeah. Well, they didn't want the towing blocks in. And Tommy Bishop, he was a milkman, and he come along, and his wheel got caught. His first day out on his own, his wheel got caught, and his cart went over.
One of the old you.
Oh, yeah, all the old milkmen. It was his first time on his own. He stuck to it. I mean, he's still a milkman now, I think. But his first day out on his own, the tow blocks was missing, and it crashed on the milk went.
What was the towing blocks here? Didn't you make a road out?
Make a road, because it was lovely, like smooth wood. But then, as I say, once heavy traffic, it was no good, and I was going to start. A couple was getting loose, and they was thinking of pulling them out. We helped them out, and then they had to do the lot thing. But you used to have the open fire then, didn't we? Oh, that was lovely.
Shameful. Shame. Never thought we could happen. I personally never thought that this Surrey docks or any other dock come to that would shut down in the interim of my life.
Devastation. You know, just absolutely like someone pulling the heart out of you.
Oh, gutted. Absolutely gutted.
Why?
Well, he always said there'd never be another place to work like there was in the dock. Meaning, men didn't stick by one another like they did in the dock. They all looked out for one another.
Gutted.
The English, what I know of England and what I've seen and studied about England, I ain't frightened to say it, they've never treated their working classes fair.
Well, you lost, didn't you? You know, you had nothing. All finished, you've had it. You lose all your mates.
Absolutely sick. And all something's coming to an end. All your life's coming to an end. That's all I ever knew. I felt empty.
Trinity Wharf, Bellway Homes, just building on it. I got really upset. I worked for Trinity Wharf 15 years, and it seemed, you know, like they took all our jobs away to shut down to build my homes that no one can't afford to pay for. I was the last girl to leave there. Because I suppose living local and they all got redundancy slowly. And the part I worked for and the governor I worked for was the last to have to go, you know, to keep it going until it finished. And yeah, and I was the last one there. It was terrific, you know. It's
Terrible, wasn't it, the man? It wasn't the docks that closed, the area closed, the old area closed.
Of course, when the pallet revolution came in, that did away with lots of men.
And once you got these ships with all palleterisation, the men wasn't wanted, was they? When everything's coming back, you got these ships that was in the Surrey, the men manhandled every bit of timber.
Because they modernised everything, and a lot of that went out the window.
But of course, when the stacker came in, the warehouses, the old warehouses along the river there, were not suitable for pallets, and the height of the ceilings were really made for people piling the height of their body. So the ceilings were very low. What you needed for stacker work and pallet work was huge warehouses with high lifts. So Tudor Street really became redundant with the stackers as the stackers came in.
I'll put it down to the employers that we had, not reinvesting in container things and the forklifts, the lifting gear. When we took containers up, we used to have to wrap a wire in them and take them off, 4 wires and take them off like that. We never had the proper gear to take off containers or handle palletisation, really.
The real reason for the closure, I believe, of Tudor Street was the new type of dock handling that was coming in, the container revolution. And you see, in the old days, in Tudor Street, the cranes, they were made for to pick up pallet boards, which I suppose we would load with just over a ton a time, and that would swing back to the ship, and we'd load it, and it'd come back to the shore for unloading. The cranes couldn't pick up more than about 2.5 tons. If you had something 5 ton, you join 2 cranes together and they pick up on a union purchase, you know, like something extra heavy. And if it was really heavy to load a boat, they would call for the heavy lift cranes that floated down the river, the jumbos and that, you see.
and had to come out in 1970 because the container ships, it was too shallow for the container ships. So they closed the dock up.
And of course the age of the docks, you couldn't expand in Tudor Street. The roads were narrow, they were made for horses, you know.
Containerisation, packaging, bigger ships, and practically another item I think was property values. The docks were worth a hell of a lot of money, the land values, like Canary Wharf, Surrey Docks, West Indy. All that property was worth a fortune. But the main thing was containerisation, because then they find anybody could do that. Don't need stevedores. And so basically containerisation ruined, done away with us.
I blame the employers totally, and I blame the government for allowing it to happen, because it didn't just destroy the docks, it destroyed the area around the docks.
The docks didn't close through what's the name, it closed because the property was worth more than we was, wasn't it? That was the only reason the docks closed.
It's all like corruption. You know, you talk about gangsters. I've got to tell you that some of the biggest gangsters are the royal, the right honourables. Some of the biggest gangsters are the right honourables, taking backhanders and things like that. And they know it, and they know that we know it. But if that's the system, they make the rules. They make the rules. And 90% of them rules suit them.
The government, yeah. Her name didn't come down too well either, you know what I mean. Oh. Maggie Thatcher. She made things easier for the ordinary people to get mortgages and things like this. So therefore then they couldn't be out of work because of these mortgages. So she had them under her thumb, let's put it that way. I won't say what I was going to say. And I think she just wanted to do away with all the bodies of men that could, I think, or he thought, that could stick together.
I led a party of 9 to try and keep in the docks. I went and see the employer at the Convoys Walk, Deptford, and I was virtually told that I wouldn't last a week. So I obviously asked why, and they said, well, we're going to change all the rules anyway. Your 8-hour day will start when we tell you.
Because the government were determined to get rid of the dock scheme. In taking away the national dock scheme and our registration, really it was the end of the life as dockers know it today.
So I got a job as a forklift driver. Then I went into like security sort of thing, like BT. Like some of the boys went into BT, so they worked you in. You know what I mean? Nice little number. So I ended up with well, your dad went in there. Peter went up in BT and all.
Friends that he worked with in the docks got jobs, and they might have let you know that where's a job going. I've got a job with BT.
You'd always look after your own, Michael. Do you know what I mean? Before anybody else. That's what happened in this job. I think the first one was Bernie Goodall. Like Bernie, lovely man. And he come down and I started looking for a job, Mick. I went, well, no problem, they wanted a bloke in here. So I went to see the governor, and what you know, he's even in here, Bernie. And Jimmy Gibbons, wanted a bloke over there. Stevedore, your dad.
Yeah, so the old dockers look after their own, get them into jobs. How many dockers you got in now, ex-pop dock workers?
Well, there's Micky McSweeney. There's a couple over the other side I don't know. I know they're dockers, so there's 2 over there which I had nothing to do with. There's Jimmy Gibbons, me, Bernie Goodall was here, and Peter.
I went to work with my brother.
After 10 months of being unemployed, this place opened up in Bromley, like this is the Glades, Bromley, and I was the 3rd man in the queue to be interviewed. Got up early and went and waited at the place where they was having the interviews, and I got employed, and I did put down for anything, maintenance, anything. I just wanted a job, you know.
My missus had a hard time when I first come out, because she used to be moaning all the time. Cut up with my bag. And eventually I thought, well, what's the use of mine? I've got to gather work, so I end up here like that. And it's a job, Michael. That's all it is, you know what I mean?
I think it was when you went into a job and you didn't have the freedom you had. I mean, once you started the job, and once it was negotiated what you was going to get when you was piecework, then that job was yours, and you didn't have none of this things you got now, you know. When they want to know the ins and outs of you and all that, you either could do your job or you couldn't. Simple as that. That was as simple as that.
No, the cab driver come down here one day. He said, "Know you, don't I?" I said, "Yeah." I said, "I know you." He said, "Millwall Dock." I went to Millwall with Peter and them. So he's got me dummy knowledge. He said, "Got tons of dosh." He said, "Never been so fucking miserable in all my life." Do you know what I mean? He said, "Ton of dosh. He's a cab driver, done the knowledge." He said, "I've never been happy since I left that game." He said, "I've got more dosh than I know what to do with now." You know? So
Getting used to not having that closeness. If you was in trouble, you had your gang, you would battle as a gang. If you wanted more money for a job, you as a gang, you stood by one another until you got that money. Things like that. You went somewhere and they didn't expect you to be a rebel. They expected you to just do what they told you. That's the hardest thing.
I'm not happy in this job. I'm stuck down here. I'm 60, coming up 62 now. And I can't get another job. I've got 3 years for a pension. They're going to give me a bit of dosh and a pension, so I'm going to hang on for it. I'll be stupid like to step out now at my stage of life. But I've never been happy since I left the dock.
She encouraged people to buy their own council houses and places and flats. They put all their savings in, all their severance pay and their savings into buying their places. And then she put them out of work. So what did she do? She repossessed the houses, not her in particular, but the system. Repossessed the houses, took all their savings, and so what would they do? Weaker-minded people, they hung themselves, a few of them. And they're the people I'm talking about.
That's what took Dennis, I think. Dennis Scanlon. He told me he topped himself. So I trying to figure it out, and he loved the dogs. He loved his mates. He loved his beer, and he was involved in that. You know what I mean, Dennis? And I don't think he could handle coming out.
One man actually, he received a notice, and when his wife came home on the evening, he was dead, and his notice was on the table.
Well, I know, I'm not just saying it off the cuff, I know at least half a dozen. I know at least half a dozen. And one done it just before, well, two of them done it just before the docks closed, like they got shut out. Hung themselves. Couldn't handle it. And then since the docks closed, there's been untold.
One of my gang did. Terry O'Brien. And he threw himself under a train. Threw himself under the tube train. He just could not. I used to see him as I walked through the blue, and he used to more or less cry to me about how much he miss it, which I did, but I was stronger, I suppose, than him, or whatever. I had other things. I was into running youth teams and things like that, so I had other, even though I wasn't probably employed at the time, I had other things to do. Yeah, two of them killed themselves, to my knowledge. Arthur Lowry was another one. He threw himself under a tube, funny enough. Two of them. And that was purely down to the same thing. They couldn't cope once they left the dock.
A friend of mine, he couldn't handle being out of the docks. His wife came home from work one afternoon and he was hanging from the banisters. He hung himself. And that was a real tragedy, because he was a character. He was one of the characters that you had in the docks, and loved it. That's all he knew. All his life he worked in the docks. He worked in the docks, his father worked in the docks, and his twin brother. I can't believe where all the water's gone, because it's all buildings now, you know. It's lovely.
It's a nightmare when you go in the docks. You can't believe it. Seeing all these houses around there. It's absolutely unbelievable.
They look lovely. And good luck to people who can afford them, but we've got no chance. No chance at all.
There's more housing, But a lot of the housing it's out of the price range of the local people, which has meant an influx of, it's enlarged the community, but not in the way of the community spirit. I think the local people have been pushed out quite a lot, and it's been a money thing, because it seems every square inch, if you move, they'll build where you was just standing.
The property people have made a fortune out of Docklands.
Well, people are not getting nothing out of it, are they? Yeah. People are not so friendly now as they was. When I went to work, I walked up now the street. Everyone, they might have had a bowl of that, fucking top hat, well, no hat. You would say good morning. You say good morning to people, and I look round thinking fucking potty.
All along by Chambers Walk, where your mum lived, all along there. People live there now. Not Bermondsey people. They've got nice riverside flats. Wouldn't be seen dead down years ago. Got no time for us. They've had no time for us. All the prime sites.
Well, if you take my wife's point of view now, she can go to Tesco's and places like that.
It's a shame some of the local shops. I do miss in some of the areas there's no corner shops, and I think that's with the monopoly on with Tesco's. I don't think all the new houses they've built and the new estates, they haven't put in what we always had, a regular little corner shop at the end of every block. So if you do want anything, I'm quite lucky I've got one local shop. But other than that, there's people, if you need anything, it means a trip to Tesco's. And that, I think, you lose a lot of the community feel as well. To pop into your local shop, you knew the name of the person behind the counter, you knew the hours. If you couldn't always afford as much as your shopping bill come to, they was happy to leave it till the end of the week. Whereas I don't think Tesco's would do that.
You missed the camaraderie, like, the mates, and every morning you had a laugh on the call and had the jokes and talk about different things, football or something like that.
I had a myriad times of happiness, and I cannot visualise myself without my life, without the docks, without the docks.
Yeah, I used to love to get up and go to work of a morning.
I'm always working in the docks, and I wake up in the morning and I've just unloaded a boat. I've just met people who I hadn't seen for years, you know. It never leaves you. It's...
I mean, it's the best 15 years of my life.
Yeah, dying breed. End of an era.
And they are the greatest people in the world.
And the happiest days of my life.
Best people God put breath in my opinion. Dr. and Stevedores. Yeah.
It was a wonderful life.
For my life must have been made for the docks.
I just regret the closing of it, of the docks. The people I worked with was the finest people I knew. I never met better people. It's gone, and I wouldn't have missed it for the world. I'll live again. Yeah, I'll go back. I'll live it again. There I go. Great.
And I actually think he would like, he said, if we got the jacaranda, which is the Seacadet boat, he said to take his ashes and scatter his ashes outside Butlers, in the Thames, off of Butlers. And that's what we did. They were ever so good. I mean, it's not easy to get that boat out of Tilbury and up the river. It took them a week. You know, I mean, people had to have time off work, the people who ran it and everything. I think he would have loved it. I think he would have been very, very proud of it, you know. So, I really didn't know how he wanted to go, so, or where his ashes would have been, so that's what we thought he would have liked. And I'm sure he would have.
Yeah, I think that was a beautiful evening.
Yeah, I'm sure he would have.
All them days are gone.
I knew I'd make it one day.
6 years, how much I owe them.